What's going on, everybody? Gray here, and today I wanted to bring you a quick review of the Ironheart series that just landed on Disney+. This should be a relatively quick video. We're just going to go over the pros I felt the series presented, some of the cons I felt the series had, and then some final thoughts and a quick wrap-up. And mainly, this is just to go side by side, hand in hand with our little Marvel mobile game that we play on this channel. So if you're interested in a review of this series, you're in the right place. Let's get right into it. So I watched the series as it came out, the first 3 episodes together, and then just finished the last 3 episodes yesterday. And one of the things that stood out to me the most in this series was the music. I thought they really nailed the music in this series. It fit the show really, really well. And one of the reasons I'm so sure of that is none of this music except Nina Simone is music that I necessarily listen to. If you asked me who any of the people on this soundtrack were, again, I'd tell you Nina Simone, and that's about all I'd know, as I am just an old, crusty, gray dude. But I really felt like the music fit the series, even though, again, it's not necessarily music I enjoy. So that was a really good sign, in my opinion, as I do have a big love of music in general. So that was one thing I wanted to shout out for sure. Another thing I really enjoyed that this series sort of presented was the idea of magic and tech juxtaposed against each other. And I'll get more into how I felt like this idea developed or didn't develop in this case when we get into the cons. But as a pro, I felt like that was a really intriguing idea for this series. And was pretty excited about it when we were watching the first 3 episodes and when I had some of that teased. Another thing that I really liked about this show was the casting for the most part. I did not think everybody in this show was spectacular, and oddly to me personally, and of course this is just a personal opinion, I found Riri Williams and the Hood to be some of the least compelling acting in this show. I actually enjoyed the Hood's crew far more than I enjoyed the Hood, and I'll get more into the Hood when I get into the cons section of this video, but I have to shout out some of these other actors in this show. I felt like they did a great job, and I think a lot of people are probably going to get hung up, unfortunately, on some things that I don't think are relevant or important to the show, but I thought characters, particularly Clown, for me was one that I really, really enjoyed, and John. I thought were great characters. I also really, really enjoyed Slug and the twins. I thought that the crew was actually one of the strongest parts of this show. Hot take, maybe, I don't know. That was just genuinely in my experience, especially with the first 3 episodes of this show. I also want to mention that I thought John did a great job in this show, the actor that played him, and I actually found myself wishing that he had played the Hood in this show. So shout out to him. I also found the moral ambiguity of Riri. I kind of have to shout this out twice. Once in this part of the video because I found it intriguing as a pro, the idea that she didn't necessarily want to fit into the hero mold. She wanted to be herself. However, again, as we get into the other parts of this video, I'll extrapolate a little more on my feelings about those themes. However, I did find that intriguing and very interesting. Some of the effects in the show are absolutely amazing. It's to be expected, I would think, at this point with MCU release, but it doesn't hurt to acknowledge it. I think we get kind of numb to this, take it for granted. There were some scenes in this show with some really impressive CGI. I don't know much about the industry, but I do know a few of the shots that were in this show were likely pretty difficult to achieve, or at least took some really serious hard work from some visual effects artists. A big shout out to that as well. The other thing I loved, and I wish I would have gotten a still image of her for this, but Zelma was great. That was great casting, cool character. Again, I've got another bit to say about that when we get into the cons of this, but I do have to shout out that the magic part of this show had some good flavor to it, and I was optimistic about it, especially when we met Zelma, because I felt like her character was very compelling, cute, and well cast. All right, and then the last thing I got to say in the pros here, that's a big one for me, is I felt like Mephisto was a huge pro in this show. Again, might be a hot take, but I feel like Sacha Baron Cohen was perfectly cast for Mephisto. If anything from this show sticks and moves forward with the MCU, I hope it's his casting as Mephisto. Again, could be a hot take. I don't know. I haven't watched other reviews on this show. I honestly don't know what anyone else's opinion is beyond thumbnails. So, but that is mine. I loved Mephisto. I thought he actually brought the kind of like evil, sinister elements that we were looking for in the show, morally ambiguous, like some of the other elements of the show. So absolutely loved that. All right, and with that said, we're going to move on to some of the cons of the show here. And the first thing I want to talk about is the main concepts of the show. And to me, that would be the concepts of Riri sort of figuring out who she is, who she wants to be, if she's a hero, what she is, does she even care? I thought those things were interesting, but you'll see a theme here when we go through the cons. I feel like it just couldn't stick the landing. I felt like the concept was underdeveloped in the end, and the ending, though intriguing and interesting, to me, flopped because we didn't develop the concepts properly before we got there. So the ending, which I, again, found intriguing and interesting, hit really, really soft for me because it wasn't set up very well. So there wasn't a lot of weight behind that punch when we got there. As the show progressed into the final 3 episodes, I personally felt like either the writing on this show or the acting, and I want to lean towards the writing probably here, completely fell apart for me. Completely fell apart. When Zeke Stain went villain, it was a terrible turn for me. I felt like Zeke Stain was completely wasted. Another intriguing character at the beginning of the show. Acting I enjoyed, the casting was good. And then when we got into his turn in the end of the show, I felt like it completely fell apart. If you just look at his stance when he's using his powers, it is laughable. And I can't tell if it's supposed to be laughable and supposed to be a joke, and we're supposed to think, oh, this guy's just a dork, he doesn't even know how to use his powers, blah, blah, blah. But what it did for me was completely make him non-threatening, like everything else in this show except Mephisto just fall flat and feel completely non-threatening. Let's talk about the Hood here while we're in the cons. So for me, the Hood was the worst cast character in this show. Completely non-threatening. The acting just did not hit for me. And for me, the biggest thing is him feeling non-threatening. And as a character, his backstory, wow, just to me was such a nothing burger. It had no weight to it, added nothing for me to the show. And by the time his character arc wrapped up, all I could say is, good, get this guy out of here so we can maybe see Mephisto. I found his character boring, uninspired. Again, it could have been the writing, but with this one, I gotta say it's the casting as well for me. That character was awful. And in the first 3 episodes, it was my biggest complaint in the show. And by the time we finished the show, it is my #1 complaint in this show. The Hood fell so flat, and everything he did fell flat, including his relationship with Zeke Stain. The relationship he had with Mephisto was underdeveloped. I didn't give a damn about his deal by the time we got around to it because I was just simply over the character. So another concept that just wasn't developed and fell flat, along with having, in my opinion, not very good acting. So that one really, really hurt. And then again, on this theme of like the concept sort of fading and falling flat, by the time we got to the magic and tech combined idea of Riri, it was so criminally underused. I think we got like 2 or 3 minutes of footage of Riri in her magic suit. I don't know what to call it. And it was just so unsatisfying. This is one of the coolest ideas of the show, this idea that she gave into magic and decided to go for the power of magic and tech. And again, an idea that just isn't really developed. Like, as a scientist, she would normally steer clear of this, and I don't feel like they really engaged with her coming around to magic and using it. There just wasn't enough development for these ideas, and unfortunately, again, in my opinion, this is one of the coolest core ideas of the show, and they just kind of let it fizzle out and fall flat, just like this wonderful suit that they wasted on the last 3 episodes of the show, appearing again for maybe 2 minutes of the entire series. All right, and then one more time, I've got to mention the writing in this show, for me, just absolutely fell apart. Sacha Baron Cohen and Mephisto was the highlight for me, but even that could not save this show's ability to cement its ideas into anything cohesive. By the time Riri gets around to her conversation with Mephisto, and makes her deal, and we get to the end of the show. I am so uninvested in Riri and so uninterested in whether or not she accomplishes her goals because we don't know what her goals are. What we can tell at the end of the show is her goals are to hang out with her dead friend. And as much as I appreciate that, when you look at what her goals were, how we got there, if they were achieved, and sort of what the conclusion of this show was, it was a nothing burger. And that's unfortunate because there were a lot of things to potentially love here. And that's going to bring me around to my final thoughts for this series. And for this series, I'm going to go ahead and say this one ranks with a half a male pattern baldness out of 10. This is not a very exciting show. It lands somewhere in the middle, guys. Like I said, it had elements I really, really enjoy. It had elements that I absolutely did not like. If you're hesitant, it's probably a skip. If you're watching everything in the MCU, you might want to catch it from Mephisto. Other than that, yeah, I'd say she's pretty much just mid. And the last thing I'll comment on to close this video out is that I have heard some rumors and read an article. Basically, it was something that Kevin Feige said, I believe, where the MCU is sort of coming around to realizing that they need to focus and stop branching out into so many side projects. And I feel like this is sort of the end of that, hopefully, of that old era of projects being spread too thin into too many side tertiary characters that aren't going to add up into anything important in the show. Because if you're going to do that, then the show itself needs to be good. It can't be a stepping stone and just be total trash as a show. It won't work out for you, Disney. All right, my friends, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps us out a lot. If you want to see videos on the mobile game that this channel is actually based on, Marvel Future Fight, or are looking for a good Marvel mobile game, you can go ahead and check that out. Subscribe to the channel. We live stream every morning at 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. I have a lot of guide videos on this channel, but other than that, we'll be putting out probably more MCU content similar to this video with each major release as it does tie into our game. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm Old and Gray. This isn't quite free to play, and I do hope that you all have a spectacular day. We'll go ahead and see you on the next one, y'all.